You're too fucking loud.
Why don't you just pipe the fuck down? Just do us all a favor and pipe the fuck down. Have you listened to the new Britney Spears and Elton John song?
No.
Okay, so to give some background, Britney has not had a number one song since 2011, and a lot of the past couple of albums' music was created under duress, basically. So this is the first song that she has chosen to actually do, and it was a rework of Tiny Dancer called Hold Me Closer. Tony Danza. No, it's called Hold Me Closer, and it's like, it's like it's that TikTok kind of music where it's like, it's all edited, but it's designed for like very quick videos and stuff, and it's, it's something sweet for the kids, something sweet for the fucking kids. I thought it was fun. And it's a number one song now. So, just like Elton John did that song with Dula Peep, that Cold, Cold Heart. That was.
What'd you call me?
It was based off what? Rocket Man. Rocket Man was what that was designed off of.
I have despite the fact that she's from my home state, I have no, she's not from my home city. She's from backwoods Louisiana. Despite the fact that she's from my home state, I have no tremendous love for Britney Spears. I can understand that she's talented. I can give her respect that she's due. I can be happy that she's now free to do whatever the fuck she wants to do. But I'm just not an Uber fan like most gays are. Sorry.
Gays are a fan of Uber. But more Lyft. Because Lyft has fun colors, and gays like fun colors. Can we record an entire episode where we Rosanna Dana ourselves on every single topic? Like it's just misdirect.
That's what you do. That's what you do every fucking time. I can't keep anything. Well, neither can you. We can't keep anything straight. Boom.
Was it Abercrombie? Or was it Urban Outfitters that sold that T-shirt that was like, I can't even think straight? I think it was Abercrombie. Speaking of human trafficking, I think it was Abercrombie.
I didn't know that there was a shirt that existed. I mean, I'm sure there is a shirt that exists like that. There's 8 million of them, but specifically sold by a large retailer. No.
Well, Abercrombie's popular again now. They started to make more inclusive ads.
Did they finally get rid of the puka shell necklace bullshit?
No, that's back in force.
Oh, jeez.
Puka shell and pearl necklaces are back. For men only, not for women. And
the sexual connotation is just... We're just going to have it linger out there?
What part of no vehicle over 8,000 pounds in this goddamn neighborhood do people understand? Anyway.
It's just a monster truck.
just go over the hedges of the neighbor's house. This is a very Caucasian neighborhood. How dare they? No, I think it's... They also introduced the color black for the first time, which that was one of the rules. No black clothes. Because they're too serious. Even they would make dark blue, but no black.
I'm going to make you black and blue in a minute.
Did you hear about... That's the way that some people order their steaks, and it's like a Philadelphia or a Pittsburgh or one of those other, places way. It's just you sear the outside, and then the inside is so rare it's bloody. Like rarer than rare. It's like before rare. It's called black and blue.
No, it's not. Well, they might call it that here. In Europe... Forever, most people do not order their steaks rare. They order their steaks blue, or in France, bleu. I'm not even kidding.
Maybe it's a takeoff of that.
It is a European thing, and we never did it here for fear of
Salmonella Fitzgerald.
For fear of some type of food poisoning.
Well, if you have low quality meat, that's going to turn out pretty shitty for you. Like if it's nice meat, I'm sure that's fine.
We've talked about something like this before, especially with the old wives' tale of you can't eat raw cookie dough, you'll get salmonella. No. You can eat raw eggs in the United States because, well, you can eat raw eggs that are sold in the grocery stores in the United States because they've all been pasteurized and all of that shit has usually been killed. There's probably a slight chance that something might have squeaked through, but it's not enough to really make you violently ill or kill you.
You're just gonna have the shits for a couple days.
Maybe, or you might throw up a little bit. Who knows? But it's not dangerous to eat raw cookie dough. And if you're eating it with eggs, if you're eating it with eggs made like farm fresh eggs, yeah, okay, don't do that. But if you're eating with eggs from a grocery store, you're fine. So whenever I make cookie dough, I always, whatever I can't fit into the last cookie, I just pop in my mouth.
You said it so quietly,
like a little pill.
It was like something like illegal or something.
It's my little pill.
You have to put it up your pee hole or something sick, like you have to, I showed it my ass.
Raw cookie dough is my version of Oxy.
Oh god, I thought Oxy was your version of Oxy. A couple things.
I'm sorry, but to bring it back to what you mentioned,
oh god,
the blue version of steak is very popular in Europe, and I guess it's becoming popular here. I don't know why it has taken so long.
But at the one time I saw somebody order it, it came out, you couldn't cut the meat because the meat was like gelatin.
Yeah.
So what's the point? You can't even eat it, just like chew it like it's.
Well, it has to be. It has to be good quality. Yeah, it has to be the best quality with very little fat in it, because fat is what makes it hard to cut.
So like a fillet, you could order like that. I don't think you could order like a ribeye like that. No. That just wouldn't come out.
Or a T-bone no. Because you want those things to have fat.
You want them to be medium rare because then the fat caramelizes.
And you can cut into it.
And you can still fucking cut it and eat it. Oh god, there's nothing worse than a truck stop steak where you chew it and it rebounds.
I love carpaccio though. And they don't serve that. They don't serve that in very many places at all here in the United States.
Carpaccio and tartare. Similar.
But for some reason, steak tartare is more common here in the States. I mean, you can control bacteria because you grind it fresh there in the restaurant and all that stuff. But for some reason, carpaccio is just not.
Outside of a specialty Italian restaurant or like a nice restaurant, you're not going to find it.
But I like it. Like it's carpaccio with basil, like a pesto sauce. I ate it once.
Here?
No. I ate it like for the month and a half I was in Paris. I had it like
all the time,
once a week.
My cousin Adam and I went to this is years and years ago. He's like, okay, you're in LA I think it was after I graduated. And he's like, all right, I'm going to take you out to lunch. I'm up in LA. So we went to the Gordon Ramsay restaurant at the London Hotel. And he's like, I know it's really nice, but let's try something nice. I was like, okay, all right, you're buying. We order beef carpaccio. And you met Adam. He's like 6'2", like big guy. Me too. Even though not so much at the time, but we sit down at the table and they served the beef carpaccio on the smallest rectangular plate. It was one slice with a couple of edible flowers put over the top of it. And when I tell you it was the tiniest fucking portion ever
carpaccio is supposed to be razor like paper thin,
but it was only one piece.
But you should have more than one slice.
We both sat there and we're like, we're not going to get full off this shit. Like we were contemplating going to
How much was one piece?
Like $28.
No.
It was so horrible. Now I will tell you, the food there and the service, it's not there anymore, but at a Gordon Ramsay restaurant was exceptional. Like everyone, they were like waiting on you hand and foot, like they refilled your water glass after every sip, like that kind of service. But oh my god, the portions were stingy. So never again. I've never left a lunch more hungry.
Well, okay, first of all, beef carpaccio usually comes like 9 to 12 slices, like because it's paper thin. It's not that much meat.
You're telling me.
Weird. But
it'd be like if you ordered a charcuterie board and they gave you one slice of prosciutto for the whole board. That's it.
You remind me of a story. Oh God, my mother.
Tell it.
My mother, you've heard me speak of my mother's sister, my aunt, whom I despise.
The one who's very brusque.
I despise so much. She's one of the worst human beings on the planet. Worse than me. Like, I get it naturally, this bitchiness.
There's like remaining Cold War dictators, like Robert Mugabe, her, and then like I don't know, like some horrible Chinese autocrat, Vladimir Putin. Like there's a list, and she's like third.
Yeah. So she likes my mother's sister likes to put on airs. She likes to, you know, pretend that she's wealthy. She likes to spend all of the money that her husband has earned.
Gay icon.
And so she took my mother and some of her friends who were visiting. She lived up in the Virginia Beach area. She took them to a very, very, very fancy restaurant in that area, and especially for there it was like the nicest of the nice. For maybe a larger city, it was probably like a 4-star restaurant, but like really nice restaurant.
Nice. Yeah.
But something that you were describing of they're so over attentive that they're like pouring water in
Like an insane amount of
Yes.
silverware kind of place.
So someone had ordered something, didn't know what it was apparently, didn't like it, and so very politely put it in her napkin, you know. And she got up to excuse herself to go to the bathroom. And the maitre d' walks across the restaurant as he sees her leaving to pick up her napkin because they fold it back for you.
No.
He picked up the napkin, shook it out, and out flew a piece of whatever she had half chewed across the restaurant. And my mother said the maitre d' was so professional, he didn't bat an eye. He quickly just folded it, set it on her
setting?
No, not even on the setting because that had food, on the chair, and walked away and stuck his arm back behind his back like nothing had happened, and he didn't even go pick up the food that had flown across the restaurant.
That's a fucking pro. That's how it's supposed to be done.
So moral of the story is if you go to a nice restaurant, don't spit food in the napkin.
That is terrifying. I have a restaurant story. I don't know if I told this one before, but I'll tell it again. Growing up, we had this...
Dementia setting in, folks.
Oh, I sound like Joe Biden over here. I'm going to go shower with my underage daughter. So, you're not cutting that out, by the way. It's verified. So, growing up, a couple doors down, there was this pistachio grower. His name was Otis Thompson. Sweetest guy you'd ever meet. Just
Otis Thompson.
Otis Thompson.
What kind of name is that?
The whitest of the white.
Does he make cookies?
like
Otis
redneck.
Buckmeyer or whatever?
He looked like a combination of... No. He looked like what you would imagine the owner of a NASCAR team would look like. He was just this big, portly, constantly jolly, like Santa Jolly man. Giant beer belly. But sweetest guy, had a few
Wore
kids.
baseball caps all the time.
Basically, yes. And he lived like he was permanently retired, which he semi was, but one time he bought a Mercedes convertible, top of the line, brand new, spent cash, $120,000. And we live in a modest neighborhood, by the way, but he just wanted to buy one. Parked it halfway in the driveway, halfway in the street, one night after he went out drinking, and left it there. So it's stuck out in the middle of the street, just in front of his house, and everyone's having to drive around it going to school in the morning. Finally, about noon, he wakes up, walks out in his wife beater, and pulls it back into the garage. He and his wife were fond of the drink, so much so that one morning she got up, got into their giant minivan, ran over all of the kids' bikes that were parked behind the van, turned around, drove down the street with the bike still straggling down the back as my mom was looking horrified from the window as there was a whole string of bike parts being left. The next day, those kids had brand new bikes. That's how these people were. I went to their house one time in the summer, and they had taken beer bottles and lined the entire jacuzzi, the pool, and the garden, and the back wall of the garden. There must have been about 350 to 400 beer bottles lining the entire yard. It was like something out of like a nice neighborhood, everything like that, and it was the most redneck shit I've ever seen in my life. You opened up the refrigerator and it was filled with empty beer bottles. and it was all
What?
Coors Light. So that's how these people, had built a nice house, everything like that, and it was just, they were so gone. But one night, my dad was taking some clients out to dinner, and they were visiting from, New York, something like that. It was a nice restaurant for Fresno standards. And so Otis sees him from across the restaurant and comes over and says, hey, hey, Atomic, hey, brother, how are you? Good to see you, neighbor. Gives him a big hug and everything like this. Otis was quite a few drinks in by this point. It was only 6 p.m., so he probably started early. And he looked at my dad had a nice bottle of wine on the table. They were all drinking. I said, what you got there, Atomic? He's like, oh, I got, this, nice Napa wine. Would you like to try some? I'll have him bring over a glass. Otis picks up the bottle, chugs half of it, and puts it down in front of the entire table, which was horrified by this point. And my dad looks
like
at
some shit you would do.
My dad looks at him and Otis says, you're right, Atomic. That was pretty good. And my dad says, all right, Otis, you can take that bottle back with you. We'll get another one. That's Otis Thompson. God bless him. Wherever he may lay. And that's, you talk about embarrassing restaurant stories.
We need to use that, though.
Like reenact it?
Get a free bottle of wine.
It worked.
Or at least a free half bottle of wine.
It's like the scene from Golden Girls where she said, I ate at the best restaurants in Italy doing this, after they accidentally ordered the most expensive champagne. And she put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper in it, and drank it, and she went, Maître D, the swill that you serve in your restaurant. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Can I get you something else? She's like, no. My palate is ruined for the night. He's like, of course, I'll be covering the entire meal. That's how you got to do it. Did you see the video? Did I send you the video? In Lowry's on Father's Day. So Lowry's Prime Rib is a nice old school restaurant on Restaurant Row in La Cienega in LA, Beverly Hills. And they serve food on those little carts, those little metal carts. Like everything is like, I don't know, Antebellum South themed or something. So they serve food on little metal carts, like they call it on one podcast, like they're like little alien coffins. They come around and move those little trays around. They do this table-side salad. So you have like some like poor kid who's just trying to pay off his student loans. Sitting there staring at the table while he has to put a smile on and whip around the salad for 7 fucking minutes and beat the hell out of it.
Toss your salad in front of your
literally,
table.
and everyone and all the old people get to ooh and ah over it. Like, I don't know. But there was a video on Father's Day of the maitre d' standing there, and this young man pointing his finger and yelling at him because some dish was not served to their liking. And then the guy's father gets up, and he looks like someone out of a mob movie, like one of the old mobsters, and he's like, you can't treat people like this, you can't treat people like this, yelling at the maitre d'. And then finally another patron gets up and is like, you can't talk to the staff like that, and just lifts this guy up, and then the women start screaming, and it is the best video ever. But I have to say, the maitre d' remained so professional the whole time, because halfway through their tirade at him, he's like, you come in here dressed like that and clothes like that? He's like, look at this suit. This is how you dress to come into a nice restaurant. It was great. And I want to go back and just, shake that guy's hand just for that comment. Because apparently these people, this family, had pulled the same shit at multiple different restaurants to try to get a free meal. You get to the dessert, you complain about something, and then the restaurant comps you, and there's no other questions. But the one thing about restaurants in LA is that they talk. So if you try to pull that shit at the Stinking Rose across the street, Lowry's is going to find out. And so apparently these people were notorious for that. Like the Dine and Dash Dater. Which needs to be your new gig. You heard about the guy in Pasadena, right?
No, but I'm in awe of basically everything that we could think to do. Someone's already done it, I'm sure. Even we're not that evil to come up with something.
No one's shit themselves in a restaurant booth and said, you call this chocolate? No one's done that. We could absolutely pull that. Have a lot of watermelon juice beforehand. We can make it happen.
Well, no, like I was telling you the other day. Put a melted Twix bar in a diaper and then pull it out from under the table and be like, someone left this here. I'm just, my appetite is gone. And as I start feeding it to you, or some, what was her name? The drag queen. In the movies, Pink Flamingos.
Divine.
Yes. It's something that she would do, yeah.
You know that really was shit that she ate.
Oh, I don't... Ugh. She's dead, right?
She died across the street from my old apartment building. It used to be a hotel. And it was
You killed her, probably.
No, it was in the 80s. I'm not that old, like you. No, it was right when she was ready to have a mainstream career. Like, she had, like, a late-night appearance that night, and she died in the morning. So... I prefer a world where Divine would have lived and a lot of other people would have died. Could you imagine?
I wonder if she would be speaking out against these children at drag shows.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that there was an understanding that what they were doing was adult.
Especially her.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know. Although, when they were going to do the voice of Ursula in The Little Mermaid, she was originally slated to do that. That was going to be an earlier Disney animated series. Like, the whole character was even visually was designed around Divine.
I was going to bring up another restaurant story, but we already changed topics, so I guess...
No, we can stick on restaurants. It's a good topic. Actually, we're good at this topic. We're not good at much, but we're good at this topic.
Yeah, but no one cares.
Yeah, they do. You know what? One of the best... Have you ever...
Colin doesn't care.
Colin...
You're welcome.
I'm gonna have to say... I'm gonna... You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna show up to Colin's house. We're gonna get a burlap sack. We're gonna kidnap him. And then we're gonna connect him to a lot of those little wire thingies. And then we're gonna find out everything that he likes. We're gonna cater the entire show just to his psyche. And we're gonna Truman show him and make him think that he is part of a podcast and an entire media universe designed around him. And then he's going to have a psychotic break. And then we're going to lose our only fan.
I wouldn't say fan. Our only listener.
No, we have listeners. We just have no fans. We have people who listen to us and really hate
he's
us.
the only one who appreciates what
Exactly.
we do.
He's the only one who enjoys the shit. We're not even... We don't even enjoy it. He's the only one.
You think I enjoy editing this shit?
We're doing this for one person's enjoyment. He's our patron. Not our patron. Our patron. You know, did you ever go to Emeril's restaurants in New Orleans?
Yeah, they were very good.
Very good. Like, the service was good.
I went...
They were so on it.
I went... God, I think... The first time I went to one of his restaurants, I was 10. And it was the first time I ever had duck. And it was... Like, I didn't want to order it because I was like... It's a weird, you know.
Yeah, and if it's bad,
it's a weird meat
meal.
I've never eaten before. My mom's like, "Oh, you'll like it." So I ordered it, and I liked it.
And if you're gonna order it from a place that's a place that's gonna do it right. Like, there's some places where it's like they have duck on the menu, and you're like, eh.
Well, and then for dessert,
they beat some mallard out behind the restaurant and threw it on a plate.
For dessert, we had. I mean, it was banana cream pie, which is the most boring, you know, American sounding thing that you can think of.
Yeah.
But what came out was like the pie crust was divine. It had like slices of banana on the bottom that were like bruleed, so like caramelized, and then like this lovely velvety pudding like type consistent, like custardy thing. That tasted of lovely bananas, and it was not the fake banana flavor. It tasted like real bananas.
Right. Like those little banana candies. Like
then another layer of the brulee bananas on top, and then like a 10-inch. I'm exaggerating.
Dildo.
No, like a 10-inch like layer of whipped cream on top of that, with like chocolate shavings, like dark chocolate shavings, and like a banana liqueur sauce poured on top. I mean, it was the most extravagant banana pie you've ever seen in your entire life, and it was absolutely wreaked havoc on my mother's diabetes. But she loved every fucking bite of it.
Could you imagine you go back on Yelp and be like, the banana cream pie wreaked havoc on my mother's diabetes, but it was wonderful. I enjoyed every bite.
There's a restaurant in Tucson. It was always very crowded, very popular in Tucson. And they made tableside guacamole with mortar and pestle. So,
Like the real shit.
like a huge mortar, a huge mortar, little pestle, and this one time I was with Chris, we ordered it. This Mexican woman, short but rotund, with like hair down to her ass.
That's how you know it's good.
Like French braided hair down to her ass.
That's that native shit.
She looked so pissed. Just so pissed. And she's like throwing things into this mortar, and she's just like giving a bad hand job to like the pestle. And,
she's better than any KitchenAid, by the way.
And in like two minute and a half, perfectly made guacamole, smooth as butter. Like, I like it a little chunky, but she made it smooth as butter and like whipped it out on the table, and she was gone. Like she had other shit to do. It was the most terrifying experience I've ever had as tableside service.
Well, because
I've had
you imagine that
tableside
could
service.
be it could be your head in that mortar and pestle, and it would be the same consistency after a minute and a half.
Yeah, I've had tableside service that was very different than that. Like at Commander's Palace, where I had the Bananas Foster. Like that's fun tableside service.
Yeah.
This woman was not fun.
I love Commander's Palace because it was so funny. My parents were like, well, maybe you can give him a sip of wine or something like that. And they were like, oh, no, he's with his parents in Louisiana. He's old enough to drink. And I think I was like 11, maybe 12. And so they brought me a glass. And there's a picture of me drinking a full glass of wine, like an adult glass of wine at Commander's Palace. And I don't remember much after that, but I think I got... I don't know. But that was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life.
It's
that,
I think
and then
it's gone.
Brennan's.
I think it's gone. It's
Brennan's.
sad.
Wait, it's gone?
Yeah,
Commander's Palace closed?
I think so.
No.
There was...
Because we went the year before Katrina. Is
It wasn't-
Commander's Palace...
It wasn't a Katrina thing. It was a family thing. Someone died, and they couldn't decide who was going to run it or something. So
No,
they
it's
said
still
we're just
open.
going to close it down. But I
They
think
closed for renovations briefly.
no.
but it's still open.
It was a big scandal back in Louisiana. They closed it for quote unquote renovations, but it was because they were having
Oh.
family troubles, and whatever it is now is not good. So the
Really?
real Commander's Palace is dead.
Well, I'm looking now, and the recent, 6 days to a week ago reviews are... It's still 5 stars.
Okay, well,
Which is good.
Last I heard, it was
Because
not
now
what
I
it
remember,
used to be.
because when I went for Halloween a couple years ago, it wasn't open. But we went to another restaurant there, and I didn't because I'd done the classics except for Antoine's, which was apparently not that good.
No, it's very good.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well then I'll go back because they have the Antoine's bar room now, which looked really good.
So really quickly, Antoine's, because in the height of August and July and August, New Orleans is not a vacation spot. It is so
Yeah.
humid. Like
So what you're saying, we're
in
going
the,
next weekend?
You're in the devil's ass crack. It's so hot, and uncomfortable. So Antoine's does a very smart thing, where every year, every summer, they have a special summer vacation menu, and so you can go for lunch, and you can have a 4-course meal for the price of the year that it is. So
What?
I went 2019. It was $20.19 for a 4-course meal.
What?
And then the specialty cocktail of the day, it was $1 per cocktail.
We would get ruined. Ruined.
The food was delicious. I was like, I'm only paying like $30, like
Total with
total.
tax and everything?
Well, of course I tipped quite a bit because the service was good too. But there were not a lot of people in there because they know that not a lot of people are going to come to New Orleans during that time. So the few people that they can get in the door, and maybe the portions were smaller. I mean, it was lunch, but it was still really fucking
That's
good
better
food.
than any fucking Dine LA deal.
Oh my
that's
God.
great.
I don't know if they still do it after the pandemic.
Well,
I
I would love to go back and
2019.
see, because that's the one place I haven't been, but I heard that they had slipped, so I avoided it. We went to this. Brennan's was great, especially for brunch.
That was the same trip I was carrying my Birkin. I carried my Birkin into
I thought you were going to
Antoine's.
say carrying my baby.
No, I carried the... well, that was my baby. I carried the Birkin into Antoine's, and
You look like a real bitch.
I was.
Well, we're going to get Rent-A-Birkins or something next time we go. There was this restaurant called like Restaurant Revolution or something like that, and it's on Royal, I believe. I think only a block or two from Antoine's. And because we didn't have to take an Uber anywhere, we just stayed in like a 6 square block area the whole time we were there. It was like up to Canal and back. It was exceptional. Because it was like if you took one of those older restaurants and you modernized it, but all in all the best ways. So, for example, when you order, like, so many palate cleansers and shit that they throw at you, before you order dessert, they bring out a cookie tray in a small jewelry box, and each drawer is a different type of cookie. One was a macaroon, one was this, one was that, and they were all the best that you could ever enjoy. I got quail, and they served it 3 ways. So there was a little quail, or a little one that was like chicken fried, one that was cooked in a absinthe sauce, like a drowned, and then a third one.
I hate absinthe.
You couldn't taste the absinthe that was cooked away.
Bullshit.
You're so stupid. And then the third one was like it was another preparation. It was like a fresh preparation or something, like almost like a roasted. It was one of the most exceptional meals that I've ever had. And then at the end, it was one of those meals where you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I will have an after dinner drink. They were out of the cheap whatever cognac, so they brought a glass of the most expensive one that they had that was not Louis XIII, and it was so fucking. I mean, it was like drinking honey. It was so good, and the drinks and the wine and everything. I was so full. There is something about New Orleans. I've never had a bad meal in New Orleans, never, and that goes from street food all the way to 4-star restaurants.
Oh no, some of the best food in New Orleans is like a hole in the wall where like you look like you're gonna get sick just walking in, and the food is amazing and it's clean and everything.
What is? My parents went to Paul Prudhomme's place and went down the basement, and he was there and all that shit before he died. That was before I was born.
This is a scary moment because I was literally about to bring him up.
Really? Well, when you described that kind of restaurant, that's what I thought.
No, okay. So, no, there are some great little hole-in-the-wall places where you can get, like, really authentic po' boys, like alligator sausage po' boy, like, just delicious things. But Paul Prudhomme had a restaurant called Plains Dealing. Mm-hmm. It was the weirdest name, but it was a name that he kept from the business that had been there before, something like that.
Yeah.
But I went there twice as a kid. I barely remember it, but I remember that was my first like foodie experience where I tried some, interesting foods that I'd never tried before. I just remember loving it, and it was exceptional, and it was beautiful. But yeah, they closed. They closed right after he died because he was still very much in charge of all the goings on,
right?
At
The
that
ordering,
place.
the everything,
And so they were like, we can't keep this open without him. And so
in a way,
to close.
it's good that they honor him like that. Like, if you tried to make a version of it without him there, it's not going to be the same. Yeah. The place I was looking for, and I keep bringing it up, but it was a place there were so many of them, and all of them were good, and it was so cheap, was Willie's Chicken Shack.
See, I've never...
There's like 4 of them on Bourbon Street. And I will tell you, Raising Cane's is good. It blows Raising Cane's out of the water. And it was like $8.
See, I grew up, in that area. I've never heard of it.
Maybe the name changed from something else, but it was so good. And it's literally like a local chain.
Well,
I never noticed it before.
I will say, when you see, and this is what irritates me, and I'm sure it's the same for so many cities. When you see some of these shows on like the Food Network and all that stuff, and they go around to these places and say, "Oh, these are the staples of this city," No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They went to. I watched, a 30-minute thing on restaurants in New Orleans. I'm like, I've never heard or seen any of these places. How much do these people pay you to be on your fucking show?
There is an element of that too, because it's like, okay, outside of, let's say, I don't know, Joe's Pizza in New York and Gino's Cheesesteak in Philly, there's not many places that are like that.
Yeah, but I just want to caution people, like when you go, especially to New Orleans, where you literally cannot survive. Your restaurant will not survive if you have even mediocre food.
Right.
You won't. There's so many choices and so many good places that you will be run out of town on a rail.
Right.
Like, I grew up thinking, living in Baton Rouge and going to New Orleans quite often, both places are well known for their food. And I remember as a kid, if we had one bad experience at a restaurant, my mother refused to go back ever again.
Yeah.
And I said, well, people make mistakes, like things happen. And she said, in this city, that's how restaurants die. And I'm not going to support a restaurant that's mediocre and treats us badly.
Yeah.
So, and she was right. Like, if most people, if they have even a semi-bad experience, not even like bad food or bad service, like if something doesn't go exactly as they want it to in a restaurant in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, they refuse to go back ever again.
Which is why you don't see chains there, because a chain can't survive.
Mm-mm.
And
not many, yeah.
And you don't see a bunch of like, we're going to open up a craft beer bar here with gastropub or something. No. So all that bullshit that you see infecting other cities. Because there's a lot of cities where you do have to, I feel like you can always find the good restaurant or the good restaurants in a lot of cities. Like there's good food everywhere. Like the idea that there's cities that don't have good food is so stupid. There's good food everywhere. But there are a lot of places that have to accept mediocre food as good food, and New Orleans will never be one of them.
Sorry, last thing before we cut this.
What is this, a breast?
You've made that joke so many times.
It gets better each time.
My best meal ever was, of all places, in Canada.
Really?
And I've gone now to this place twice. It is a place in the Quebec province, not too far from Quebec City.
Okay.
It's overlooking the Montmorency Falls. So there's a hotel with a restaurant on top, literally overlooking the falls. You can see it from the dining space.
Yeah.
And that restaurant is just impeccable. I had the best bite of food I've ever had was there. And people are going to recoil when I say this.
Is it Manoir?
Manoir something, probably.
Montmorency?
Yeah, that's probably it, yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it. But it's very French and, because it's Quebec, so it's very French leaning.
Oh, it's north part of Quebec City. Oh, okay. That's beautiful. I wanted to go. I went there and I never went there.
And they have like they would in France, like the prefix menu.
Prix-fix.
Where you choose from your courses, but it's a set price. So you have like a 4-course meal. Everything's delicious. But the best bite of food I've ever had was foie gras creme brulee. It was an appetizer.
What?
It was foie gras, but made into a more of like a mousse texture because it was lightened with some cream. Mm-hmm. And then they bruleed sugar on top. And the salty sweetness of it, like on bread, was the most divine thing I've ever eaten. And I've never had anyone come anywhere near like creating something in like, this is going to sound so sexual, I'm sorry. Creating something in your mouth that just takes you to a different place. Like it was an amazing experience. It was delicious. And people will probably go, oh, that sounds disgusting. It does kind of sound disgusting, but it was delicious. I like foie gras.
I mean, I don't think I'll ever be able to visit Canada again, but I would love to go back in the summer. I already did the winter. It was cold.
Why would you ever go to Canada in the winter? I don't want to hear it.
It was not my choice. It was New Year's. But
No,
that
Canada-
maple whiskey is incredible.
Canada, I'm sorry. I've never been to
You've been to Vancouver?
I've never been to Vancouver. I've never been to
Vancouver's an
Western
interesting
Canada.
city.
French Canada, so many people shit on it. I love it.
I don't shit on French Canada. I shit on French Canadian, quote, people, end quote.
The Quebecois.
Yes. If there was ever an existence of an alien species on Earth, the alien would be French Canadian. They are so unlike any other group of people.
But it's a beautiful place. The food is good. It's actually like going to France and not
That was the
being
whole
in
point.
France.
Yes.
Not having to travel so fucking far. I love it. I'll definitely go back some point.
Well, basically, we've described that all the best food places in the United States, or the Americas, are French settled.
Yeah.
How does that keep happening? What is it?
I don't know. Have a great day and go fuck yourselves.